So you're welcome to revisit those. I'll share the link out later on. And hello online. All right, let's get going. How's it going, folks? Good? Happy Tuesday. My name is Greg Bem. I'm one of the faculty librarians here, and I am a tech nerd, self-identify as a tech nerd. I've been running these workshops for over a year now, both here at SCC and at the last college I worked at over on the west side of the state in Kirkland, Washington. I've been using GenAI for a while, and I'm probably not an expert or as much of an expert as some people, but I probably know more than average. And it's part of my job to explore this stuff and provide my knowledge to all of you. So you are here, many of you are here for Guide 102. Welcome, Guide 102 folks, and welcome to everyone else who's here too. This is the intro session for folks that have no experience with GenAI. You've come to the right place. And around GenAI, or if you use it a little bit, you'll probably learn something new in this session as well. We do have a variety of additional workshops that are coming up, including this same workshop tomorrow, if you really want to just sink your teeth into the same content again. And we also have a couple sessions on ethics and three different sessions on specific tools that you can use that are not ChatGPT. So Claude, Gemini, and Perplexity.
I had mentioned earlier that
Hey, David.
there's an AI. Sorry, an AI.
There we go. I'm going to mute folks that are online real quick. Okay. So yes, so there are also three of those. If you want more experience, these are all designed for folks that have no experience. So if you're in that situation where you really have never tried to use any of those tools, you're welcome to stop by and learn a little bit. Let's get started with the slideshow here. So what is this workshop? This is going to be covering the basics of what we call generative artificial intelligence, or GenAI technology. We're going to look at using GenAI ethically, productively, and critically. And this is a workshop from the library to anyone that wants to show up. I am not being told what to do in this workshop. I've created it from scratch. I am grateful for faculty that bring their students to this workshop and folks that participate, but this is all coming from my lovely brain. How many of you have used GenAI or have heard of it before? Just to see a show of hands. Cool. And how many of you have never heard of it or never used it? All right, so pretty good split. And folks online, if you want to contribute in the chat, I will review the chat as well. What this workshop is not, we're not going to be going into the technology underlying GenAI at length. There are many wonderful YouTube videos by software engineers and developers, very, very smart people that I highly recommend you take a look at if you're interested in seeing how all of the underlying technology works. We don't have enough time today to go into that. We're not going to be looking at any of the specific tools in depth. I will show you a couple of them. That's the demonstration part of today. But you can spend your entire life, like 24 hours a day, exploring these tools at length. And again, we don't have the time for that. And finally, this is only one perspective on GenAI, both at the college and in general. A lot of people have opinions on this technology here in higher ed. I'm providing mine. I'm an optimist. I don't think the world is going to end because of this, as we will see. But there are folks that have different opinions from myself here at SCC. So keep that in mind too, as you hear my optimism. It is a bias. So here's our agenda in brief. GenAI Basics will cover what it is and how it works a little bit. We'll look at some of the common tools that are available, and then you'll have access to those at your fingertips if you want to explore them down the road. We'll talk a little bit about prompts and iterations and what that means. We'll talk about the contexts of higher education and professional. We'll talk about issues with the technology and benefits, and then we'll close out at 10:20 with some recommendations. If we end early, we might play around a little bit further before you all leave, but that never happens, so we'll see. So let's start with the basics. What is artificial intelligence? According to IBM, artificial intelligence, or AI, is technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human learning, comprehension, problem solving, decision making, creativity, and autonomy. Many of you have probably seen sci-fi shows or movies or read books or comics that have computers or robots that act like humans. That's kind of what we're talking about. But AI goes a lot deeper. It really is mimicking everything we do, not just being able to talk, but think and process and make decisions and have a certain degree of autonomy. Another description of AI, and this is, I think, really fascinating because it talks about education and thinking and how humans are processing this concept. AI is a broad field that encompasses many different disciplines, including computer science, data analytics and statistics, hardware and software engineering, linguistics, neuroscience, and even philosophy and psychology. And that is from Google's definition. So with Google, they're not just talking about the technology itself, they're talking about the culture around it. They're talking about how we, in all of these different fields and beyond, are exploring this type of technology and its impact on humanity, on everyday life. The pros, the cons, and everything in between. When we move forward from AI to this new buzzword, generative artificial intelligence, or GenAI, we are looking at something much more specific. Generative AI, according to IBM, refers to deep learning models, that's the technology, that can generate high-quality text, images, and other content based on the data they were trained on. So we are going to look at that, and look at how that actually works. But this is one type of AI. It's a much more simplistic version of AI, as we will see here in a moment. So I love this image. It's a lot of text, and if you're in the back, you probably can't read it very well, but I will go through it. So here's GenAI. That's what I just defined with that IBM definition. GenAI can generate content. It can generate images, video, text, and audio based on data that it's trained on. When we broaden that with this image here, we get to traditional AI, which goes back to that other definition. Examples of traditional AI include facial detection. So being able to say, have a camera say, oh, I understand that that's Greg, or I understand that that's you, or you, based on data that it's trained on and being able to assess that data. Image recognition, speech recognition, being able to, when you talk into your phone, for example, being able to understand the words that are coming out of your mouth. Pattern recognition, data mining, so being able to review large sets of data and pull information and analysis out of that. That's kind of what we usually think about when we think about AI as a system. Being able to do that, being able to hear speech, being able to understand image recognition, being able to manipulate data and image information that way, that's already starting to emulate what humanity is doing, what we do as humans in everyday life. But as we move beyond, we get to AGI and ASI. Now, AGI, you may have encountered this in your daily life as well. Advanced virtual assistants, medical diagnoses and treatment, systems that can review data and talk about changes in the climate, personalized education. These types of systems are artificial general intelligence. Now, artificial general intelligence is still in the appearance looking like a system, looking like a computer doing really advanced things, really advanced techniques and tasks. Have any of you seen the movie WALL-E? You know, I don't remember that character's name, but like the ship's captain. Or 2001: A Space Odyssey, of which WALL-E is based on. These are these computer robot, like super intelligent beings that are essentially able to do really advanced tasks or like us or better. But when we move to ASI, that's where things get a little creepy. ASI stands for superintelligence, artificial superintelligence. Now these are the types of iterations of AI that go beyond what humans are capable of. Have you seen Her? Has anyone seen Her? You should see it. It's a really good movie. Joaquin Phoenix. Super good. Or Ex Machina. These are movies, sci-fi movies, that explore what is possible when you have something that is both human and beyond human. There are characters in these movies that are so intelligent that we don't only identify with them, but they are operating on a much higher level than we are, and they essentially take over what we're able to do. But those are the sci-fi versions. In theory and in literature, we see ASI doing things like actually solving global challenges, being able to respond to healthcare problems, get us out into space and do space exploration, manage the environment, even creating things for humans in specific ways that humans themselves cannot create. So this is like very sci-fi, very beyond what we deal with on a daily basis. Just imagine artificial intelligence being able to go beyond what we're able to do. And that's kind of where we're going with ASI. Let's step back to GenAI, because we're not in that other realm today. We're in the most specific bubble in the chart. So GenAI uses technology called large language models, LLMs. And if you've used ChatGPT, or you've heard of it, the LLM in ChatGPT is generative pre-trained transformer. So like when it was ChatGPT 3, the model was Transformer 3. We're now on 4.0. So these models are trained on large sets of data, millions and millions and millions, probably at this point billions and billions and billions of documents and other sources, which could include everything from books and articles to movies to social media posts. They have access, these tools have access to all of this data, with all of this language and these ideas. And they are using very fast computers to look at all of this data very quickly and understand what the language is and what the ideas are. And by understand, I mean look at patterns and repeat those patterns in language. And that's how they give you the output when you ask for something. So to use these tools, and we're going to look at these in, I think, the next slide, you will need to enter something, an input, to get an output. And the output is derived from the first bullet point. These tools are being created by for-profit companies, organizations, and individuals. There are free versions, there are paid versions, and then there are hybrid versions. So if you want access to these tools, sometimes you can get some of the features for free, and we're seeing more and more paid subscription models for them because they're so powerful. They're accessible through web browsers, mobile apps. Some of the technology is available offline, but most require an internet connection. And we're starting to see a lot of this technology embedded into other software that we already use. So if you want to go into design, you might need to learn Adobe Photoshop. Within the last year, Adobe has integrated GenAI technology in all of their products. We're seeing it in Microsoft Office and Microsoft Windows. We're seeing it in all sorts of different technologies. So it's not just the individual tools themselves, but embedded in these other pieces of software. So how many of you have heard of ChatGPT? So that's one of the most popular tools. What about Copilot? Copilot is Microsoft's tool. Gemini? Gemini, does anyone know who made Gemini?
It's Chrome.
Who owns Chrome?
Google.
Yes. And Claude? No Claude, but one Claude. And Claude was created by Anthropic. If you looked at the sheet, I will be exploring both Claude and Gemini later this quarter, if you want to do a deeper dive into those. But these are 4 of many, many tools that are out there, but these 4 tools are arguably the most popular, the most frequently used, and the largest number of users. And ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude, they have their actual own LLMs. Copilot uses ChatGPT underneath it. Microsoft has a partnership with OpenAI, who created ChatGPT. But if you want to explore 3 very different language models, those 3, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude, are it. And I see you on the chat. Thank you for your contributions. So, talking about input to get output. What this actually means is you can type something into one of these tools, and you can get these things in return. Plain text responses, formatted text like tables, computer code, and more. Still images, animated images, video, even music. There's tools that can create original music now with these tools. So there's a wide swath of output that's available through GenAI technology. And it's growing and becoming more complex. For example, one of my favorite tools is called Gamma, and it creates slideshow presentations. So it's a combination of image and text, and it outputs it as PowerPoint. It's really, really nice technology. So prompts and iterations. When you're using these tools look like search engines. You have a bar, and you have to type something into it. So it's similar to using Google. And when we enter something into the bar, we call it a prompt. We're prompting, we're providing something to the technology. And this is usually a phrase or a keyword, but often people are just using their own everyday voice when they're using the tools. So you don't have to think of like the library technology or like other technology about specific keywords. You can just type in full sentences, questions, etc., and it will understand. The prompts that you're entering are iterative. So when you use Google, for example, you're asking it one time, say, weather Spokane or weather in Spokane, and it gives you that information. With a tool like this, you can ask for the weather in Spokane, and then you can ask a follow-up question. How is this related to historic weather patterns in Spokane? What do you think is going to be the upcoming weather? Do you have any analysis of the weather today? So you can have a full conversation with these tools, which is why I think they're so popular. This is a little bit out of date, slightly, it's changing, but over the last 3 years, this idea of prompt engineering, so being able to design prompts in a way that is intelligent and effective, that's been coming out as a skill set. We've even seen it in LinkedIn, on job postings on Indeed.com, as something that some companies want employees to have. They want you to know how to use this technology in an optimal way, to have experience doing it. The same way we have experience writing emails, or we have experience using Excel. This has been another one of those bullet points. Do you have this as a skill set? But now, the idea of prompt engineering is just being replaced with GenAI skills, not necessarily having to be an engineer, just knowing how to use ChatGPT. That will make you competitive in many workplaces. And actually last winter, I did a research project and learned that a lot of companies now are actually asking for this technology. They want to be competitive, and they're bringing this technology into their offices. So here are some examples of prompts, and then we'll get into looking at the actual technology. So when we use a tool like ChatGPT, we can ask things or say things like, why do so many people like poetry? Describe quantum mechanics to a 10-year-old. How do I make gluten-free pizza that tastes delicious? Has anyone made gluten-free pizza that doesn't taste delicious? Can we talk about life, the universe, and everything? What can I do to get over test anxiety for my college course? Where should I look for information about the latest research in nursing? Please provide some feedback on my current resume, and you can upload your resume into the tool. Put all of the dates from this month into a spreadsheet and include empty fields for tasks and the required team member. So more of an office or professional prompt. For those of you that have used GenAI in the past, would you like to share something you've entered into it? Anything? Yes?
I'm helping to teach a math class in the culinary department, and I'm not a math person, but I've been helping people do it, and we found it super helpful to put the problem into GenAI and not just get the answer, but then to ask it to break it down. How did you get this answer? And it breaks it into steps for how to do it.
Yeah. It can deconstruct and organize information in really interesting and effective ways. Anyone else? Online too, you're welcome to provide an example. Yeah, sorry.
Very good. I had to come up with a rap for something for my high school, and we had to change some of the lyrics to more like arcade theme, and so we changed the Ice Ice Baby song to an arcade theme song, and it kept the beat of everything, just changed the lyrics for us.
Wow. So was that a positive experience for you?
Yeah.
Okay. So was everyone able to hear that online? I'm not sure how strong the microphone is. I will assume yes. I have a contribution from online. I've used it to help me polish a business plan. It showed me gaps that I was missing. Another one I did was, why is my hair red? Interesting. Great. So there's an endless number of ways you can use this technology. And again, how is it getting the responses to these questions and these requests? It's looking at many, many, many different documents using very, very, very fast computers, and it's bringing together its response based on the language that it looks at and synthesizes. So when you ask about quantum mechanics to a 10-year-old, for example, it's looking at 1 million books and documents on quantum mechanics to understand what quantum mechanics is. And it looks at 1 million different documents that are books and documents for 10-year-olds, that reading level. And it's finding a way to integrate and synthesize all of that information and pull it together to give you that description. I have another one online. I've used it to help me differentiate between conflicts of interest and competition as related to the PR industry. Great example. Any questions so far? Oh.
I just have another example.
Yeah.
I use it to help word problems in my math class.
Okay.
If I don't understand it, I put it into this website and it helps find the answer and also breaks down the problems.
And so it breaks down the problems, which can help with your learning and comprehension of what the word problem is. I like to emphasize that because I have to, as an educator, I have to push back on just getting the answer.
Oh yeah, no, I do it so that I learn the steps on how to actually do the assignment.
2 thumbs up. So let's take a closer look. Let's go into those demonstrations. And I want to just say real quick before we go into the 2 platforms we're going to look at today, which is ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot, that these are both free. If you create an account, just be wary that they require an email. I think ChatGPT, it used to require a phone number. It might still. So you might have to give some information to it. And also, caveat / warning, when you use any of these, you don't know what the companies are going to do with your data. They like to say things like your data is protected or we're not going to use it for any of our technology, but we don't know that for sure. So I always emphasize, do not put any personal information in this. Don't put a credit card number or a social security number or even your name and birth date. try to exercise privacy practices that will save you and your well-being going forward. So that being said, let's look at ChatGPT. Real quick before we demonstrate a couple of prompts. Most of these tools have a history somewhere in the interface. So in this case, ChatGPT lists a history of your chats. I mentioned these are conversational, right, with the iterative nature of these prompts. So it will save your chats individually, and you can edit them and delete them and whatnot. And usually in the main screen, you're going to have your current conversation. A lot of these tools do provide some suggested ways to get started, and those are always changing. With ChatGPT, there are multiple models available. So the default is this 4.0. We have a paid subscription to ChatGPT here in the library. So we have access to more options than the free model, or the free version, but it's the same general interface. And then one thing I like too is that you can also do a temporary chat. So one thing they're experimenting with ChatGPT is called memory. I'm not going to go into the details, the nerdy details, but essentially they want every account to know more about the user by remembering all of the conversations and being able to refer to other conversations and build like a personal persona of the user. Are there any Redditors in the room? Anyone use Reddit? No, come on, I know you use Reddit. So if you go to the ChatGPT subreddit right now, a lot of people are asking ChatGPT to create images of how they are in the system based on the memory of the system. It's kind of going into meme territory.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's been the last 3 days on the ChatGPT subreddit. So let's start with a basic prompt here. I'm just looking at time. Okay. What would you like me to ask or request of ChatGPT today? Anything goes. Anything, come on.
Autonomous driving.
What's that?
Autonomous driving.
What about it? What do you do? I can just enter autonomous driving, or do you have a question about it?
Just general.
Okay. So I could do this, autonomous driving. I'll just do that since you did it. But you could also say, tell me about autonomous driving, or what should I know about autonomous driving? Let's just say autonomous driving. And so it is now, again, synthesizing from a lot of different sources all of the information it's going to share with you. And it gives you a general description, and then it's describing, so if anyone knows about autonomous driving, there are levels of autonomy. And so here we have the 4 levels, or 5 levels described. Then it talks about the companies that are working on these systems. And then it asks you, are you curious about any specific aspect of autonomous driving? Is anyone curious about any aspect of autonomous driving?
Level 5.
What about it?
How it decides, like, it doesn't need a human at that point.
What
is it that makes, I don't know, the AI feel that it's I don't know, that it's, got enough brain to not need the human?
Enter your words. What is it that makes the AI? And the reason why I'm entering your words is because one thing that this type of technology is very good at is being able to not only find the information, but look at your information, your language, and analyze it and assess it and interpret it and pull out those ideas. Because it has access, like we all have access as humans, to language across many different styles and types, etc. And so now it has provided an answer, and it's talking about how it's going to completely replace human drivers, and then it provides all of the, well, maybe not all of, but it provides a numerical list that is formatted with headers about how it works or how that technology works. I saw a hand, I think. And then I see you online
Yeah,
too.
right here.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, if we have the time, do you think we could do an image real quick?
We can,
All right,
yes.
I want to see just how specific we can get here. So let's go, we'll enter this in,
I'll get to you next, Jennifer, online, but yeah.
2000 Dodge Dakota. And let's go.
Dodge Dakota?
And let's go, yeah, let's go on a desert road, 40 miles an hour. Let's do that.
All right, does that look good to you?
Yeah.
So I want to mention before I hit enter that ChatGPT also has image generating technology if you have the paid version. So it uses a platform called DALL-E. So while it's doing that,
Let's see if we can do this.
The free version allows image generation as well, but you reach a limit.
oh, okay, thank you. So it takes a little bit longer, but it will be generating images. And there are a lot of different image generating tools out there as well, not just this one.
Because like the previous questions we did were like pretty broad or pretty typical questions. Like, let's see just how deeply it can search for images. Because really, I don't think a lot of people even know about the vehicle I named. And I've seen AI images, but usually when I see them, they're like ridiculous looking. They're like ideas that a toddler could create. Let's see just how.
Well, this one you might have stumped it with this one. I've never seen it not generate the image before. While we're waiting, I'm going to go to Jennifer online. Oh,
No.
what do you think?
I think that was.
Is that a Dodge Dakota?
Yeah,
I don't
that's
even
exactly what I mean.
know. Okay.
That's the exact. Yeah, that's the exact vehicle I did.
And then if you had an adjustment or you wanted any change, again, these are iterative. So you can say, well, throw some deer, idly on the side of the road in the background, or turn it into the end of the world with a volcano erupting, or something like that.
And that is surprisingly detailed. Like, you expect at first like just the general shape of the vehicle, but then it actually throws in extra details you never.
Why is he driving on the wrong side of the road?
And it's a Washington.
Maybe this is in England.
But it looks like a Washington license plate.
That is true. Good point. So I think, well, we'll get to that later in the presentation, but there are errors with some of these tools. Let's go online real quick. Jennifer, you've been holding your hand up for a long time. Do you want to unmute and chime in?
Good morning. This has been really informative. Thank you, Greg. My question is about the zero GPT. Like, tell me about the ways that we can check writing to make sure that to find out if it is AI generated or not. Can you tell me anything about that?
Yeah, real quick, and that's a long conversation, but I'll respond. There are checking tools or checker tools similar to plagiarism checkers that exist, and GPT-0 or Zero GPT was one of the early ones that I think is still around. Here are the realities of these tools. If you ask a tool like ChatGPT to generate language, it can be checked, and it can show up using a checker tool as AI language. But these tools are always changing, and the language within these tools is always updating. And any user could ask the tool to make adjustments to the tone. So you could ask it to talk like, I don't know, a gangster, or a comedian, or a child. You could ask it to do anything with its tone that might interfere with how effective those checkers are. Even more fundamentally, any user, including students who are writing papers, could ask for help with these tools, and maybe they do start off with getting an example paper, but then they could edit it with their own language, and within a couple iterations of their own editing, the checker might not be very effective. There's also been a lot of issues, documented issues with false positives in the checking tools, where even like the Bible, people have uploaded the Bible into a checker, and it thinks that AI created the Bible. So
Okay.
there's a lot of emerging technology around that, and a lot of conversations are leaning towards not relying on a checker as the be-all end-all for determining if a student or a person created something with GenAI. But
Okay.
great question.
All right. Thanks.
And I have one more example, but let's move on to Copilot to do this example, and this is from online. So this is ChatGPT. Let's go to, can this please go away? I can't get it to go away.
Grab the little, on the far
Thank
left,
you.
that thing, and you can drag it. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So this is Copilot, and I don't know why it's not refreshing this, but this is not what the main screen looks like. The main screen, when you go to Copilot and you're not signed in, will look like this. So Copilot is Microsoft's product, and it's now available for free without signing in, with some limitations. You can also sign in with a Microsoft account, like an Outlook email, to get more access, and then it will save your chat history and that sort of stuff. But it's the same kind of thing. We're going to use the bar down here. Earlier, I just tested it out. I asked for an idea of the pizza, and it gave me a nice pear prosciutto pizza that now is making me really hungry. But I want to use the example that we got online, which is write a backstory for a female elf for Dungeons and Dragons who has a corgi that travels with her everywhere. Does anyone relate to that? No? Okay. I'm just going to copy and paste here. So now it's created this backstory, and it's given you some of the basic information. Any D&D players in the room? All right, so we've got the race, the high elf, and the class, ranger, and it's providing a lovely background on this character. And then it asks, how was that for your new character? Iterative though, right? So let's say we wanted this character to not be from the elven city of Lothlorien. Isn't that Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, it did.
That's kind of weird.
It borrowed from Lord of the Rings.
Can we have the character be from South Hill, Spokane? Because that's where all the elves live, right? Absolutely. Let's add a local twist. And so now it's going to describe this character as being from South Hill, nestled in the pine-covered hills and rolling landscapes, and it even mentions Manitou Park and all of our favorite Spokane iconic scenery.
Even using language more like urban legends now.
Yep.
That is uncanny.
And then one final example. I have another request from online. Ask the AI how long before humankind is no longer relevant.
Or the big question.
So, how long? And the thing about Copilot is kind of cheeky. I don't know how Microsoft got it to be this way, because there were periods where it was a lot more objective and neutral sounding, like ChatGPT, but now it's got this personality to it. And there's a little bit of humor and lighthearted tone. Why do you ask anyway? So I'll allow you all to ponder that and maybe have a conversation with Copilot in the future.
That's actually kind of creepy how,
I think it's cool.
I mean, there's always I think this question of sentience really, like, we can make it act like a human, we can make it act like it is actually capable of hearing us and seeing us. Make a reaction experience, input reaction experience kind of very realistic to interacting with a real person. What I think a lot of people forget, though, is that, or at least what I think is that if we give this kind of technology any kind of sentience, if it does ever gain any kind of ability to think for itself, then we won't really not see that coming, because entity that doesn't already have sentience on its own cannot gain it without something dictating that it does gain that. So, like, if this kind of technology were to gain the ability to make its own decisions, then as its creators, I have a feeling that we would have some say in whether or not that actually happens.
Yep. So there's a lot to unpack in that, but very poignant. Look up the Turing test if you're interested in some of this. That's essentially the test to determine if AI can act human. So they do blind testing where a person is on the other side and they think they're either chatting with a human or an AI, and they have to gauge that. And ChatGPT has already been able to surpass the Turing test, and several other GenAIs as well. Meaning we think we're chatting with humans, but we're not. It's that realistic and emulative of the human experience and human personality. But to your point, yeah, like there are a lot of philosophical conversations happening around this technology, which you can read about all over the place, about how involved should developers be, how much safeguarding should there be, how much control versus let's just do everything and make it as powerful as possible. And of course, then we get to questions around doomsday and how much control we have long term, what is autonomy, and some of those sci-fi movies that were listed earlier go into that as well.
Thank you. So if chatting with a robot seems like it's a human, the one thing that would make me feel like it's not a human is if they throw a robot voice or a voice on top, because you can kind of hear the robotics behind it. But if they got really good at that, do you suppose that in the future, when we make phone calls like to our bank, hey, I need this issue solved, we'll be talking to robots?
I mean, it's already happening a little bit. Google, I think, has a technology where you can essentially have you can have a voice assistant respond to phone calls. You can send it to your
I have Google Assist on my phone.
Yeah.
And it changed from that robotic sound to actually and it changed automatically. So if you're not in my contacts, you call my phone, you're gonna get Google Assist, and it sounds just like a guy.
There you
Just
go.
like a guy. It does not sound robotic at all.
The future is upon us.
Yeah.
And it's not like it asks you to make.
It tells you that it's Google Assist, what are you calling for? But it actually sounds like.
So it's your answering service, essentially? You've got an answering service, Google Assist?
So if
your
you're not,
voicemail?
well, I have voicemail too, but if you're not in my contacts, then my phone calls are screened. So any calls that are not, that call me and they're not in my contacts, or I have not called it, that number, it will screen my calls. My phone will not ring until somebody says something.
Okay, I love this conversation. And there's also a couple contributions online. Humans are the only ones that can determine their end of being. It's all about choices. Very interesting. We have a few more slides that I really want to get through before you all get out of here, especially because it goes into higher ed and some of the implications here. This we cover in the ethics session, so if you're interested in learning more about this, come back to one of those sessions or watch the recording. Hallucinations and incorrect information. A lot of these tools, they're synthesizing from a gazillion documents, and they're providing information without citation, but they're also providing information that is not necessarily correct, or it's hallucinated. And if you're interested, Google AI hallucinations. That's basically how they create fake sources just to look like real sources to satisfy the request, because they're not able to provide an actual source out of all of that synthesized information. We talked a little bit about rules, standards, and oversight from the developers. There's also barriers to access. So not everybody has an internet connection. Not everybody has easy access to a device. So it's not open to everyone. The developers are putting safeguards on a lot of these tools. If we had asked for a picture of Biden or Trump or Kamala a few minutes ago, it would have been giving us a warning that we can't create those at the moment. Israel, Palestine, all that sort of stuff. So the developers are having some say in what types of content is created and who controls that conversation. It's a very wide open space right now. Very important, bias in data sets and design. The history of human knowledge is wrought with bias. We have racism, we have bigotry of every kind in our documented history. And if we are looking at the gazillion documents that have those biases in them to inform how this technology is generating new information or generating synthesis, it's going to bring some of that bias forward. Violations of intellectual property. So a lot of the image generators especially, they were essentially taking artists' work without permission to train their technology, their tools. And there's lawsuits currently being resolved right now about that. I already mentioned privacy considerations. We don't know what the developers do with the information we put in to these tools. That being said, how can GenAI be helpful in higher ed? Some students really like that familiar, friendly voice. They like the ability, I like this map example that came up earlier, different learning styles, but also just comprehension in general. Like if you need something to be phrased in a different way that makes sense to you, these tools can do that. Unlike a book that can only go so precise, or a document that can only go so precise with their answers or their information, you can ask for explanation and precision through these tools. We've already talked about the iterative conversations, which kind of speak for themselves. This is available through most types of technology. So if you have a device you can use, you have access to it. And they're designed to be relatively easy to use. All you have to do is type something into that bar. As we saw earlier, you can just type autonomous driving, and it provides this wide swath of information. So you don't really need a special skill set to begin using it. But we did talk about the online access requirements for many of these, and also their cost. A lot of the tools are charging for their most advanced features. And I think that's only going to become more and more challenging when the demand is so high. We're so used to using these tools every day. They can say, oh, well, you don't get to get it for free anymore. Your free trial is ended. Real quick here, so we're going to talk about this in depth during the ethics sessions as well. But ethics essentially is our value systems in our community as well as individually. So what are the problems? What are the bad ways of using GenAI, especially in higher ed? Just asking GenAI to do the work for you without doing it, without caring. We typically consider that unethical and often cheating or academically dishonest work at the college. You can actually get in significant trouble if you're caught not doing any work, but just having GenAI do the work for you. Using the information that is provided as credible and authoritative. I mentioned that GenAI does not provide citations in most cases. Some tools are starting to, but not all. And so it's like Wikipedia, copying and pasting or citing from the generative AI, which is recreating or resynthesizing and regenerating its response originally every time, is not going to work. Using GenAI tools and providing output information without including a student statement. So one thing that a lot of professors are trying to figure out is how do we create assignments that either don't allow for these tools to be used, or maybe they're allowed in some ways. As a student, if you're not talking about how you're using these things, then it might end up going back over to that first one where these tools are just doing the work and automating the workflow for you. That's problematic. And then citations, there are actually citation formats that you can use if your professor is okay with you using GenAI. There's MLA and APA citations out there. And then I mentioned plagiarism and dishonesty. But, you know, there are ways that we can ethically use the tools at school. So for those of you who have used the tools for your work, what do you think? Or for anyone here, how do you think you could ethically use these tools in your class?
The math problem question that was the example we just started.
So
Break
to,
it down to better understand it.
great, it's a good example.
Using it as a learning tool.
Do you want to explain a little bit more about that? Or like specifically,
Using it as a learning tool.
like how?
So, you want to know how to do something, and you don't, like say, 10 o'clock at night, you want to learn your pipe is, your faucet is leaking. You ask AI, how do I, fix this as a manual?
Okay, yeah. Something to reference, another
Yeah.
resource to reference. I see online, if I am stuck, it may help me to think outside the box. We're already over time, so I want to go to the last slide here. We did not get to cover the workforce. But here are a few recommendations before you head out. When you're in your classes here at the college, start by looking at the syllabus. A lot of professors are starting to create statements about how they allow or don't allow for this technology. And they're also doing it on an assignment level too. So maybe your professor will allow you to use it for an assignment, but not another assignment. I recommend if you're interested or used to using this technology, talk with your professor early, especially if you don't see anything in the syllabus. Ask them what they think, what their opinion is. Read the room. Try to understand on your own what their expectations are. But be aware, as I mentioned earlier, of differing opinions. Some professors hate this stuff. They think it's the end of the world. It's uprooted their lives. They have to redo their assignments. They have to think about new things because it's such a new technology. So there's going to be a wide spectrum of how professors feel and how they use it or don't use it in their classes. I recommend staying up to date on news and trends. If you're going to be at the college for a while, come back to some of my other workshops. We really dive into some of this more at length. But also on your own. You can go on social media or read some of the news articles about some of this stuff. There's a lot being published on the technology. It's not hard to find. And acknowledge over-reliance. I know some people who are really into this stuff, but it's a slippery slope. Once you start using it, it might be hard to stop. And ask yourself, are you still reading? Are you still comprehending? Where is your mind versus where is the tool? And how is that relationship with technology? And finally, again, if you do use this technology, always try to include a statement. Be transparent and direct with your professor about how you use that. That way you'll prevent any conflict, any miscommunication about how the expectations were versus what you did. And question? Comment?
Just a comment. I would like to think that if you do have permission to use it, or that you know that your instructor doesn't mind if you do decide to use it on your own, then I think it's one of those situations where if you do end up using it, regardless of whether or not he said, go ahead and use this, and you know he's okay with that, there's no reason to hide it.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
if you know it's okay to use it, even if it hasn't been specifically stated whether or not you're allowed to for a specific project or something, then there's no reason to not cite having done so.
Exactly. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you. Have a great day. Take care. Thank you online.